Hello and welcome to an Iosia role-playing game game report. I suppose this medium is to replace the other idea I had, which was to upload the entire session of a game onto my channel. This time I'm just going to sum up what happened in the 4 hours we played in 15 minutes, which shouldn't be too bad, actually. This game was played last night. It wasn't connected to any of the other games that we've played on my channel. It was run by Winston Biggleswade and was designed essentially to test the magic system a little bit more. Basically, the only restriction we had in our characters was that we should be somewhat mage-like. The players were myself, Alanara, Duke, and... oh, that was it. And Zhao was supposed to play, but because of personal reasons he couldn't make it. And as a side note, Zhao, I'm sorry about your bike got stolen, that really sucks. So yeah, there was just the three of us playing, and Winston took charge of Zhao's character. I'll link all those people below and include them in the channel description and give them all credit where credit is due. Thanks all for playing. It was really interesting actually to play the game as a player. It does give you a new perspective on the game, certainly, because in a way you've got less to think about because you're not running the game. So I could step back and watch it being played a little bit more than when I was actually, you know, GMing the game, and it certainly has helped. And I thank Winston for offering to run the game, and he certainly has embraced the rules, I suppose, and he understands the system, which isn't a very complicated system anyway, but he does understand it, and he did use it very well, and I'm very pleased that all in all the game was a success. The game didn't really have that much of a plot, which was it was designed that way. It was basically a dungeon crawl to test the magic system, and the game we designed worked very well for doing that. I'll start out with the good points that we can come out of it, and actually I had to think about what those were then, but we certainly had a lot of fun playing, so that was definitely a plus. And the Duke, who hadn't played the game before, did pick it up pretty well. Alana and I did play a game together by her request once, so she had played the game before, but equally I think the game is pretty intuitive and is pretty easy to pick up. One thing the game really did show is the importance of the intellect skill. In IRPG there are four attributes. There are 4 attributes. There's strength, which governs combat. There's agility, which covers things like stealth and light weapons and armor and archery. There's willpower, which covers magic, and there's intellect, which doesn't cover any combat. So you might think that it's quite a mute attribute, like it's not really that important, but we used it a lot because what Winston did was he used intellect to use the law skill within it, so that we could roll and see if we knew more about the monsters we were fighting. So for example, we came across a great giant toad that was bathing in a pool of blood, called, amazingly enough, a blood toad, and I will be including that in the Iosia lore. I will add it to the bestiary. And we had to test on our intellects to see if we could find anything about it, you know, see if we could discover a weakness. So that was really good. I'm going to go into the bad things now, because one of the good things is derived from one of the bad things. The bad thing was, once again, and this is a lesson that I have not learned from last time we played, some of the magic, I won't say all of it, but some of it is underpowered, and this is something that came out of the recorded sessions that I've been uploaded as well, with the mages not quite having enough oomph to them. The melee combat is great. It really is. I really love the melee combat system. With magic, it's not so great. There is not enough spells yet, but I will fix that. And what spells there are either aren't powerful enough or aren't really useful enough. For example, Alanara wanted to play a necromancer character. So she took skills in slings. She took skills in apothecary. She wanted to take skills in alchemy, so she could mix poisons and stuff like that. But I haven't actually developed the alchemy skill enough to include it in the game yet. But it will be in the final game. She took apothecary because I figured that would be a good substitute, because apothecary, even though it's a healing skill, it's like messing around with bodies and stuff, so it kind of fit her character. And she took some more awareness and some other miscellaneous skills. So her character only had necromancy, and she only had 2 ranks in necromancy. And how it works is that I will show you the necromancy. Here we go. So she was at rank 2 or level 2, so she could cast rank 0, rank 1, and rank 2 spells. Any rank 3 or above, she couldn't cast. So essentially, all she could do was sense life, so she could see things around her and possibly through walls and stuff. Speak to any dead bodies she found. Cast darkness, so it envelops her and makes things harder to see, I suppose. And control undead, so if there were any undead creatures around, she could control them and bind them to her will. Now that did actually happen. There were undead in it, and she did manage to control one and have it fight on her side for a bit, which was cool. The other thing is, in a general combat situation, she didn't have anything to do. She wasn't very good in melee. She didn't actually have a sling. It wasn't given to her, which isn't a fault of the DM, because that's the setting we were put into. We had very little equipment to play with, so she had to rely on the spells. And because she was only level 2 or rank 2 in it, she didn't have many spells to play with, and her other skills were in miscellaneous intellect-based skills. So in a combat situation, she didn't really have that much to do. Now you could put that down to poor character design, I suppose. If she knew the system a little bit better, she would have put an extra level, so she could have got raised undead, you know, in necromancy. However, I think it's more of a fault of the system than it is the player, because it shouldn't take the know-how of the system to design a decent player that isn't stood around doing nothing for most of a combat. So basically, I'm going to add more spells and make them more powerful. Pretty much that's the main thing that I derived from this game. Equally, Duke, he had a fire mage, and he had 2 ranks in fire, and I'm sure some spells have gone missing from the fire magic thing, but anyway, he had resist fire, heat, which was to heat something up, heat a weapon up or something, animate fire, so you create a tiny little sort of familiar for yourself, walk on fire, steam, and that was it. You know, steam's a low level offensive spell, level 2. And he didn't, again, apart from steam, which has a very short range, and range is something that I need to work on as well, because Winston's dungeons and the areas within it were much bigger than the ones that I made, and I based all of the ranges on the dungeons that I'd created, and I quite like small confined spaces, whereas Winston's dungeon was much more expansive and had much larger areas, and most of the spells had their ranges weren't enough. Basically, you had to move forward, and sometimes you couldn't, even if you moved forward, you couldn't reach the enemies with a spell. So that's definitely something I need to work upon, and obviously, well, I just thought of that in my head, so it's not obvious, but I need to increase the range of the missile weapons as well to coincide with that, because it's all scaled to this now. I do need to increase the range of the skills and weapons generally. But steam was the only thing he could cast, and it only does D5 damage. So he was underpowered as well, and basically we were all underpowered. My character was a mind archmage, but because I have know-how of the game, and because of the character I wanted to play, I wanted a character with a little more oomph, you see. I had 4 ranks in a melee skill, so I could hold my own. You know, I could actually do damage to stuff. But we were supposed to be testing the magic skill, and it ended up with us attacking with our daggers and stuff. Well, attacked with the other players resorted to attacking with their daggers because they had nothing else to do, and that is a major flaw, and it was something that I will definitely fix. So I have definitely learned that from it. One positive thing that I did derive from it though was that I think we had a lot of difficulty casting spells, but that was really down to poor rolls. We were rolling 1s and 2s like nobody's business. But when a spell is miscast, or when a spell is failed to be cast in IRPG, a mage has to roll on the miscast table to find out if anything bad has happened. And here's an example of one. Even though it's the demonic arc, which wasn't actually used, it did give me an idea about what sort of range the results fell in. And most of the ones that I got fell under round here. So we go in for the these up here are very, very bad. For example, this one results in your character's death, whereas these are actually quite minor indeed. This one is actually a positive effect. This one might not matter, and that one's positive and negative. So it's only when you get to 1 below that it gets negative, and we only got a few of these. They were mostly around the say 2 to 6 area. So I'm happy with this. I did get a -6 roll once for rolling 2 1s in a row when I was trying to cast a very, very powerful spell. I was actually trying to cast telekinesis to see if I could get this shield from a wall that was behind this barrier. Yeah, I was supposed to try and get 8 or more, and I think I rolled a 1. And then in my miscast table I rolled another 1, so that resulted in a -6. I reckon that sort of thing is quite rare, but it happened in the game, so it shows that it can happen as well. And you've got to be careful when you use magic, and that was the whole point of the miscast table, was that you should stick to spells that are sort of within your power, because despite the fact that you can only cast a certain amount of spells, you can, as you can see, add difficulty to them to make them more powerful. And that's what I was doing with the telekinesis, because it was really far away and really heavy, and I was trying to force it with my mind, and I just overloaded myself, and so I fell out. I passed out for a couple of turns, and took some damage. So all in all, I like where the game is going. I need to make more spells and make them better. And all in all, it was a success, because I did learn a lot from it. And another good thing that came out of it was that none of us died, despite the fact that we were somewhat underpowered. And I think Winston, being the GM, was realised that and altered things accordingly, which again he shouldn't have had to do, but he did because of the situations we were under. Yeah, it was positive. All in all, it was positive, and so I can take positives from this, and hopefully when I release the game, which will be quite soon, because clearly it's not ready yet. But I mean, that was the last play session before I actually upload the game. I think we might have another one next week, so I might be able to squeeze another one in before. Yeah, it should be alright. It should be alright. I mean, I did learn a lot from that session. I thank Winston for running it off of his own back, because he actually offered to. And I thank for everyone who played. And I thank you for watching my mindless drivel. But yeah, so all in all, positives to be taken from it. There were some good points, and it certainly made me realise that magic's still underpowered, and I need to work on that. So, thanks everyone. Toodaloo.